This is my test and review of the Neomow X Pro by Hookii. It is a boundary wire free robot mower. This makes setup and installation very easy. All we have is these two components, the mower itself and then the charging station. This particular unit uses LiDAR and vision system to navigate, so we don't rely on line of sight to the sky and satellites for the navigation, which is an advantage if you've got a vegetation canopy that would obscure the sky and or large buildings around there that would prevent good line of sight to the sky from the mower. We've got a single camera on the front of the machine. Up top here, that dome is the LiDAR system, and then the control panel on the back. Underneath, we've got non-powered wheels in the back of the machine. We've got a single large cutting disc with 5 blades, and then the large knobby tires are of course the drive wheels. Cutting disc also incorporates a unique design to prevent grass from getting wound around the fasteners that are holding on the blades. You can see the blades we want to move freely from the disc so that they fly out when the disc is rotating, and other models have a problem with grass getting stuck in the fastener. This one promises to be better at that, and it looks like it will be so. Another big advantage of not relying on satellites for navigation is you could put the charging station inside of a building. So it's a unique feature of this mower. I'm setting it up inside my garage here, and the mower can then spend its nights in a protected area, especially if you're concerned about theft. But also it protects it from UV rays, things that deteriorate typical plastic and mowers if they sit outside nonstop. Another big advantage of this mower is the battery size. So this Pro has a 17.5 amp hour battery. That's 2 to 3 times larger than most robotic mowers. So this thing can cut up to a 1/4 acre on a single charge. I'm installing the DC power pack to provide electricity to the charging station. Now this is a very important piece, especially with this large battery size. Because this is what controls the charge speed. Thankfully, they went with a very nice large unit here where the recharge time is the same as I've experienced with other robot mowers with much smaller batteries, around 40 minutes to recharge the battery. To get started with the mower, we have to download the app. There's a QR code on the quick start guide that I'm using here. Take you directly to the Neomow app. Control the mower. I've got the Neomow X Pro here. Hookii was nice enough to supply this for the channel so we can do a full review and give you my thoughts on this. This is my 7th robot mower, putting it through its paces, so I'm quite familiar with most all of them. This LiDAR vision navigation system really has changed the game this year. We no longer need line of sight to the sky for these mowers to operate, and that's why it's in the garage here, because this gives it the unique ability for you to keep the charging station in your garage. That keeps it out of the weather, sun, deterioration, things like that. But also for those of you who live in an area who are worried about theft, it's a big difference. Of course, we have to have our garage door open when we're mowing with this, but at night we can close the garage door and keep this thing locked up. This is a high-end unit. We can tell by the look of it. We've got a lighted Hookii logo up front, carbon fiber look on the front bumper, very nice looking. The packaging is extremely high-end. Charging station, charging pack, everything is very high quality. Even comes with these 3M double stick foam to put the charging station on your garage floor and keep it secured. I'm not going to do that quite yet. I'm going to make sure it's happy with this location before I do that. I recommend that you do that also, and I'm still undecided. I might keep it outside because I like to have my mowers on a schedule and automatically go out and mow every other day. I don't necessarily want the garage door to have to be open for it to go operate. Now, if you've got a smart garage door opener, you could also do a schedule with that and time it together. So your garage door isn't open all day, it's just open when the mower has to come in and out. So that's definitely an option for you also. Setup of the mower was painless. Download the app via the QR code on the quick start guide. Add your mower to it, get it connected to Wi-Fi, and you're ready to go. So all we have to do is create the map of our lawn now, and then it's ready to mow. The app does a really good job of walking you through this process, and basically it involves you driving the robot mower along the edge of your lawn with these two little joysticks on your phone. So you walk behind it like I'm doing here, use the left one to go forward and reverse, the right joystick to go left and right, and you drive it around the perimeter to define the mow area that you want. After you have your mowing area defined, you want to come back and create no-go zones, which are areas within that mow area that you don't want cut. So I'm creating one around this tree. The vision system will recognize this tree and go around it, but if you create a no-go zone, it will help the navigation. It'll be smoother when cutting around this tree. So I did all the trees and flower beds within my zone, created these no-go zones. Again, the app does a really good job of walking you through this, but it's the same process of defining the other area as shown here. You basically walk behind and drive it around the border. Because the charger is not within the mow area, we have to create a charge path. I'm doing that now. Simply have the bot in the mow area and then drive it along your preferred path to the charging station, so it knows how you want it to get from the charging station to the mow area, and it will follow this path every time. All right, mapping went well. No signal losses or anything like that, which I've had in the past with GPS guided mowers that rely on an RTK system, because I do have a decent amount of tree canopy that can block that signal. Obviously not a problem with this mower. So everything went flawlessly, got the overall mowing area done and all the no-go zones, and then finally created the path, the charging path, so this mower will follow that same path getting to the charger all the time. so it doesn't randomly go into your garage and run into things. So the only thing left to do is finish mowing. There were a couple spots where traction became a problem, and my lawn is especially difficult because I have slopes that are outside of the rating for this particular mower. I'll show you those. While you're selecting a mower, one good thing to do is just take your phone and measure some of the angles, the worst angles on your lawn, so you've got a good idea of what slopes you're dealing with. This is the area, and particularly down here along this French drain, that transition is a challenge for robot lawnmowers because we've got the lack of traction on the concrete. Normally those rubber knobby tires dig into the grass and dirt much better than the concrete. But if we take a look at this, right at that transition, I've got high 20s up to 30 degrees of slope, which is beyond the rating for this particular lawnmower. But we're gonna see in this area, I think it can still mow this. We'll see how it does. This is going to be a great test for this mower. I've got Kentucky Bluegrass. We're currently at right around 3 inches. We're gonna cut down to just over 2.5 inches. So I had a little trouble getting the Neomow started. The map is big and complicated. It would go the charge path into the lawn and then just sit there. It wouldn't mow, and then it would give me this anomaly error. So I cut off this part of the lawn. I made the zone smaller and put the recharge path over here. Hopefully we can get it going now, and then I can work on figuring out what the problem was with the map, add on that after, and see if I have the same problem or not. But let's see if it starts mowing now. Let's see how well it follows our paver edges here. This is going to be a challenge because this is a side slope, and those uncontrolled wheels in the back are going to want to slide down the slope a little bit. Again, this is pushing the limits of this mower, but so far it's handling it pretty well. You can see I did keep the border away from this quite a bit in this area just to protect from that. I know it's a challenge for these robot mowers to handle this side slope and continue going straight, but again, we're doing pretty well here. We are not cutting much off here, which is what I like to do anyway to manage my lawn, but I think I'm going to drop it down 5 centimeters here just to go a little bit shorter on the grass. Doing pretty good there along the rock wall. It bumped into it there. Let's see how it recovers. Yeah, it recovered pretty well. So I got a little bit close on that mat boundary. I probably should have kept a little bit further away from these rocks. So I do like this. It's not doing all of the edges, but it mowed around the edge to get to the furthest point. The northerlymost point to start its lines, and it's working its way from this corner back to the rest of the zone. So I do like that. Good job so far. We'll see how it goes. Every mower height seems to be a little bit different. So this is where I'd cut with some of my other ones, but this might just register a little bit higher. So I'm gonna go down another 5 millimeters down to 50 millimeters, which is 2 inches approximately, and leave it there, see how it cuts. Okay, this is interesting. It encountered its first no-go zone, and it's doing an edge cut around the no-go zone, which I think is awesome to do right now while it's in it, instead of waiting till after the fact. So So far I like how it's navigating. It's a little bit tight on these boundaries around my no-go zones. I know these edgers are particularly troublesome for these mowers. They like to catch on them. So next time, or if I remap or I could modify some of this stuff, I would keep it away from these boundaries. Probably another couple inches, not a lot, but it's just kind of the learning of each mower. We can see it's cutting with stripes here. Looks quite nice, doing very solid east-west stripes here. I set it up, it's going to automatically change the direction of its cutting periodically to keep so the grass doesn't bend down one way, and just get used to that. It's doing a good job so far. Let's check in on the mowing. It's doing a pretty good job. If we look down, it's cutting pretty good. It's working its way over nicely. I wouldn't normally cut it this low, but just to give it a good test for everyone, we're taking a decent amount off. You might want to do that. So showing the results, we do see some clippings. So I think personally the best way to use these is to mow every day or every other day and take off just a very little amount. But it's also capable to do this. I would say this is once every or twice every week. This would be the amount that I cut off, or 1.5 times per week. Did a real good job up here through this irregular shape. I don't see any miss spots, so very good job. I'm impressed. Here's a better view with the sun at my back. We can see the stripes. These diagonal ones are from a previous mow, but the straight ones are from this mow. Looking good. Very nice cut. All right, I had to go to softball practice for my daughter. Left the garage door open and left the mower going, and it's about 42% done. It went and recharged and is back mowing. It's at 70% battery, so I believe it charges up to 80% and then goes again. But we can see the front yard here looking really good. No miss spots, so it looks like navigation has worked quite well. Yeah, looking good. So we're gonna go watch fireworks now. I don't want to leave the garage open that late in the day, so I'm gonna pause the job and tell it to go charge. That way tomorrow I can resume the job and it will just continue exactly where it left off here. All right, sending out the Neomow for day 2. Should go right to its break point and continue the mow job.
Here we can see the mower is going to the break point where we paused the mow job yesterday, and is going to start right from that point, so nothing's missed. Pretty cool feature.
I really like how it handles these no-go zones, doing 2 passes around it to minimize any need for string trimming. It's still gonna have to string trim, but it minimizes it, does a great job. I'm impressed with how this navigates around the no-go zones and then fills in with mowing. Good job, Hookii.
Here's an example of obstacle avoidance. In this case, we've simulated a small animal, a small bird, and we can see the mower recognizes that animal and steers right around it.
Good job. I was curious how it was going to do here. This slope is also over the rating for the mower. And we can see it's doing it, but let's watch it a little bit, see how it handles those non-powered wheels in the back, if it's able to track. All right, not bad there. We can see there's some wiggle in the lines, but it's getting the job done. Let's get a measurement on our slope here. 34 degrees. $26. $25. $23. So right in the mid-20s, right in this worst area. All right, we've got a spot here with a slope. It's a tough spot because it comes right up to this tree in a no-go zone, so it has to turn around, and clearly there's traction issues in this specific area. All right, we were mowing over on this edge and it got stuck here. Let's get it restarted, see how it does.
The mower stopped and gave me an error notification on my phone, so I just came over here, and you have to clear the notification from the robot itself and then get it mowing again, which it's doing here.
So we can see some of that wiggle in the lines here on the side hill, like we saw before. And again, this slope, there are spots of it that are over the rating for this mower, and there's spots that are right at it. Climbed up there fine. So that's good. The slope is a little bit higher over there. It eases up a little bit on this side, so it makes sense that I was able to climb that. Here is a good example of it going through some thick grass. Starting to get a little frustrated with the mower. For some reason, it wants to drive over the boundary I set up and go into the flower beds like that. That time it got out, but I've had to rescue it several times. Now it's on basically where I drove it. Doing good now, but for some reason, sometimes the navigation just drives it into the flower beds. Emergency stopped it. It's like the entire map is shifted. I noticed the front yard, it's away from the boundary, and then back here it's a little tight. So my one thought is I didn't use that adhesive to put the charging station down securely because I didn't know if that's where I wanted it. Maybe when it's leaving, it's dragging that a little bit. Maybe that threw the map off a little bit. If that drags 6 inches, a foot, obviously that's enough to throw off all of our gaps here. So I still don't know if I want the charging station there, but if it's not there, it's outside. So I'm gonna go ahead, put the adhesive down on that thing and see if that fixes our problem. Now I noticed when the mower was taking off from the charging station, it would drag it for a little ways because I hadn't put the adhesive pads on the bottom to stick it to my floor, because I was testing it out and wanted to make sure I was happy with this location and the setup with the garage, so I held off on that. But I thought that may be one of the reasons why I'm getting some of the navigation problems where it's driving into the flower bed, because its reference point is to this charging station. If it's moving with it, that might set it off on an improper path or just shift the entire map. So I went ahead and installed the 3M adhesive pads and stuck it to the garage floor. We're on the second mow. Things seem to be going better with that base stuck to the floor, so it's not dragging when it's coming out. So I think that's helping with the overall positioning. And here are the results. Of course, it's charging right now, but the second time's even better. We don't have as long of a grass, so we're not cutting off as much. And it automatically changed the angle just a little bit, and that seemed to help those cases where the grass was laid down. It's coming in the opposite direction when it goes, so it's pushing the grass up and cutting it off nicely. You can see cut quality. It's pretty nice back here. We can see this no-go zone. There's a couple passes around it. Looks like it didn't, you know, this is nice tight spacing there. So I think we got those things figured out. That navigation problem was my fault, just trying to test out that location without securing down the charging base a little bit. I think was just throwing things off, you know, 6 inches or so. All right, living with the Neomow X for a couple weeks, I'm ready to give my conclusions. It is a solid mower. There are some real benefits to this thing. One, that it allows you to do this charge path outside of the mowing area, allows you to go into your garage or other structures. It really unleashes the possibilities where to put the charging station. So that's very cool, especially if you live in an area where you're concerned about this thing getting stolen, which is probably a lot of places. The other thing is the battery size and the cut time is nearly an hour, which is really good for a robot mower. That cuts down the amount of trips it has to make back to the charging station, so that's very cool. Cut quality is good with that large single disc. I had no issues. I don't think there's a big difference between if you have two smaller discs or one larger disc like that. It cut quite well. The LiDAR navigation piece, once I secured down the charging station and it wasn't dragging it out, I had no issues with that. So that worked itself out. So solid LiDAR navigation system, no issues there. And the obstacle avoidance is really good with that camera on the front, or the AI vision system on the front. Some things to watch out for: take your phone, measure the slope at different parts in your lawn. If you do have areas with large slope, don't go further than their recommendation. So I've got some areas with pretty significant slope that I showed you. That really pushes the limits of this mower. So you probably want to stay away from it if you've got extreme slopes in your lawn, just so you're not disappointed with the performance. The route planning, another benefit of this, the route planning is really good. I like all the different mowers that I've used over time. I really like how this one performs, does that it does the double path around the no-go stations and really works its way nicely from one end of the yard to the other. Doesn't skip things and then have to come back later and travel all the way across the yard to get those, which some other mowers do. So the software and the route planning is really good. One of the initial things I had on here where the mower would not go, the size of the mow zone was too large. And I've got a very complicated lawn as far as shape and no-go zone. So advice when you're setting it up, set up multiple mowing areas, keep them a reasonable size, and then you won't have any issues with that. I just pushed the limits of this thing, doing my entire lawn in a single mow zone. It just, the compute of the LiDAR just had some issues there. But again, not a big deal. Just if I would have known that going in, I would have set up multiple mow zones like you should. Otherwise, again, solid mower. Thanks Hookii again for supplying this mower, the Neomow X Pro. Solid machine. Thanks for watching. Adios.